This is the 2 kilowatt diesel heater from Max Speed and Rods, and I just started preparing to fit it. I've decided that's where I'm going to go. I've done some little pilot holes, check where they are, and there's room around them. Now I'm just going to offer this up, check it all fits nicely before I drill the big hole. I was hoping to fit that straight, but it's where I wanted the hole to go. There is a power cable underneath, so to avoid that I'm going to fit it diagonally instead. And because the part of the floor I'm fitting it to isn't flat, I bought one of these, which I'll add a link to in the description, because that will make up for the ridges and I'll be able to seal it up and make sure none of that horrible CO comes in. To make my hole, I'm going to be using one of these. That's a Bosch hole saw, and it comes with one of these, or you buy this separately rather, Power Change Plus. I've got a whole set of them. They're interchangeable, so if you're going to be doing a few holes it's worth getting one, otherwise you might be able to do it with a jigsaw. Just drill holes around the outline where you want it. Make sure you've got room underneath, you're not going to be touching anything. Fuel tanks around this area, so you have to be careful. And then you can just follow it around with your jigsaw, but this makes life a lot easier. So there are the holes that I've drilled for what each part's going to be. Each of the inlet and the exhaust. And that's my pilot hole for the centre. I'm going to drill the hole for the centre bit first to make life easier when it comes to that bit, and then have one final check underneath that I've got plenty of room and I'm not going to cut through anything before I make the cut. This is where we are underneath, well away from the fuel tank. This is the cable I mentioned, and I wanted to move it further that way, and why I've had to fit it diagonally. That's my pilot hole. There's plenty of room around it. That just fits back in and clips onto that. Make sure it's secure in place. Now when you start to make a hole with something this big, you get a bit of centrifugal force going, which can be hard on the wrists, so be careful as you do it and make sure you've got a good steady grip. And do it a bit at a time, see how you're getting on. Don't overdo it all in one go, and don't force it. Let the hole saw do the work. That's my hole done. I'm just going to file off the jagged edges and spray some underseal around it. You can use any other paint you want, Hammerite or whatever, as long as it's rust proof. And then I'll offer up my plate, get it the right place and drill some holes. So that shows it's a nice tight fit, and you've just got where you can see the light, that's where the ridges are, which we're going to be filling with sealant. One of the sealants I recommend is CT1, comes in a variety of colours, and I also use this. I've got plenty of that because I fit windows, and that spare does pretty much the same job. That's my paint nearly dry, so I'm just going to offer this up now. I mark the holes for the screws and put some good thick screws in to hold it tightly in place, and once everything's all lined up right, I'll be attaching this to the heater and popping some sealant on. Then once it's in, it's in. That's how I've lined it up, with where I'm going to put the screw holes on the ridges so they're not trying to bend the plate down. It's a nice tight fit. I've made the holes and I've put the screws in a little way to make the thread so it's easier to fit once it's all in place. I'm going to put a blob of paint on the holes, take all the screws off and fit the heater to the plate. So I've fitted the studs finger tight. If you look closely, there's a little X hole for an Allen key. That's a 3mm one. You just tighten them up to them. Don't over tighten them and strip the threads though. That's the studs all fitted and the base plate added. and screw down tight with the nuts. Now I'm going to attach the air pipe and the exhaust pipe. I bought some new stainless steel Jubilee clips to do that, rather than the cheap ones that come with the set. The size I've used are the 18 to 25mm ones. If you slacken them off carefully, almost to the end of, you can just about get them on, so it's a nice tighter fit than using the bigger ones. If you're not sure which one to attach the exhaust to, it's the one that isn't by the fuel inlet. The exhaust is well away from it. Now this kit has come with this exhaust strap, which you don't always get in the kit. The first one I've had that's had it, but I think it's a new thing that Max Speedium rods are doing. So I'm going to get the air pipe on first, so I've got more room to play with, and then I'm going to wrap the exhaust in this before I pop it in the hole, just to make it easier to do it. These are the new air pipes that's coming with them as well. It's more of a cardboard outside, corrugated with foil inside. Haven't decided on those yet, but we'll give them a go. Now that was quite a tight fit, and because it's not plastic you can't warm it up a bit in a tub of water, so I just wet my finger, wiped around the outside, and if you turn it in clockwise thing rather than wiggling it backwards and forwards, it seems to screw on, so that's quite tight in there now. I'm just going to do up the Jubilee clip. That's all on tightened up. I was quite surprised to see this in the kit. Everybody seems to replace the green flexible one with the stiffer white plastic one, and I normally do too, but as this is going to be my van, I'm just using it for work and stuff, I'm going to road test this stuff and see if I have any problems with it, just for my own knowledge. So the green hose goes on nice and snug. Interestingly, these are not exactly a tight fit to hold it in place, so I'm going to have to rest it on the edge there. It's not great, but we'll try it. That's my exhaust strap on, pipe and the air intake. So that's ready now. I'm going to pop some sealant on this side as well as underneath, but we'll do this side. Pop that in place and screw it down. This is the connector I'm going to be using to join into the fuel line rather than tap it into the tank. Squeeze the bit inside and the long clip. Exactly the same as this one here. This is the one you unclip from there, and that is one that I have just fitted, that like I've just shown you. Hopefully that works and it will save me trying to tap it into the tank or having a separate fuel tank. On the Traffic, which I presume will be the same as the Vivaro, I've got a little grommet here. I'm going to pop that out, make a hole, and through that I'm going to put the power cable to the fuel pump. Then I won't have to drill any extra holes. This is the new upgraded fuel filter that you get, with a nice handy arrow on it, and you'll be fitting it with these that come in the kit. They're self-drilling screws. The easiest way to get them screwed in is if you use one of these that will fit into your power driver, and then drill a pilot hole. You don't need to, but it's easier, and then whack them in using one of those tools. This is the area I've drilled 2 pilot holes to mount the fuel filter. Just for reference, it's just above the exhaust here, and it's quite near to where I'm having my heater, so it's all in a nice compact space. That's the self-drilling screws in position, I just unscrew them and screw in the fuel filter. On the fuel pump I can't see any arrows indicating which way the flow is, so I've checked my relay, and on that one it comes out this side, so that's how I'm going to do it. I've fitted the pump. I've used a little washer on the back of those screws because they weren't that long. I want to make sure it didn't go inside the rubber. I've got the filter, pump. I'm just going to connect up the fuel pipe and plug in the electric connection. That's my fuel pipe connected up. I'm just going to run it through. It's under the engine, in the engine bay now. I had to heat up the pipe to get it onto there, and I'm just heating it up the other end to get it to join the pipe from the heater. So I'm going to leave that in there for a couple of minutes to loosen it off. And I've also had to find a little Jubilee clip to go over the top part, as I didn't have a clip suitable because that's expanded quite a lot over there, and none of the clips in the heater kit would fit. I will include a link to this if it works, as it saves a lot of time from dropping the tank. So that's the diesel pipe into the rubber hose. I am going to fit it. That one comes off, clips into the one that I've got in my hand, and then you push it all back in, and that should supply the diesel. It wasn't the greatest thing trying to push that into there because the green hose is really flexible, so I would definitely recommend getting the white hose that I will leave a link to a kit with that in as well. It's worth getting the white hose because it'll just make that connection so much better. At some point I am going to replace this myself because I'm not convinced how long that'll last in there, because it's just too flexible. But we'll see how it goes. We'll give it a go. To get that clip off, same as this, you press the two, on that it's red, the two red bits, press them in and it should come undone. Then you push it into that one, and then this one goes into where that one's come from, so it's all together. That's it all connected up now. You can turn that to the best place to run the pipe. I'm going to be cable tying it to the fuel pipe that's already existing and run it down there, and then this, hopefully, if you pump that, it primes the existing fuel pipe. Pump it till it gets hard. I don't think it'll prime the heater, but it ain't gonna hurt. I've connected the power cables directly to the battery. It has an inline fuse, so you don't go through the fuse box. The terminals that came with it weren't big enough, so I've used some new terminals, 8.4mm for the 8mm bolt, and I extended the earth cable so I could have them both fitted directly there rather than to an earth or even the main battery earth. I'd rather they were connected in the same place. I've just got to connect the controller, and I think I'm ready to test it. The controller's plugged in, and we will see if it starts up. It'll take a little while to prime it. I think you can prime it by pushing those two buttons at the same time. I wasn't sure, so I haven't done that. I'm going to wait and see if it works and how long it takes. That looks like the fuel's starting to go along. That's my exhaust mounted. I'm not over impressed with the exhaust strap. Make sure you use gloves because it itches like hell. Cable tied, fuel out the way. Fuel's through now. And that's going into the front. I've mounted the air filter there so it's away from the exhaust gas. And I've just done a little clip on that just in case it ever comes off. I don't want to lose the air filter on the end. That's where my fuel line comes up. Nice and tidy and attached. As it's quite a long stretch of fuel line, this has had about 5 pressures so far, and I have tried the 2 fingers on there and it does work the pump, but you have to keep your fingers on it, and I really couldn't be bothered. So in the meantime I fitted my little wall electrics department, so that's nice and neat now. And I've also fitted the bracket, so that'll all keep nice and tidy out of the way. It's now running, we've got nice warm air coming out, and everything seems as it should on there. I did have to start it a few times. At E8 error came up before the fuel started coming through, and I did start the engine on the van in case I'd made an airlock where I'd taken the return valve apart. So I'm going to let this run for 5 minutes. I'm going to turn it off, and then tomorrow I'll see if it'll start without the engine running. That's the only concern I have, in case it won't run unless there's pressure in the pipe. I started it this morning, and first time it's running nice and warm. All I've got to do now is tidy up, put the battery cover on, and I'm going to cut a section out and protect it against hurting the cables, and put the seat back in and decide where to run the hose. I think that's about it done then. I'll include links to all the parts I've used. Finally, to finish it all off tidy, that's the conduit taped around the power cables. And I've put some sealant around the edges where I've cut that off so they'll fit through. Battery cover. And I've made a little cover for the back with the vent coming out. It'll all be a lot tidier once the whole van's finished, but that'll do for now. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more stuff. Coming next, fuse box and solar panel. Bye for now, and Merry Christmas.